welcome to the Diner for this edition of Burgers and Fries, a podcast where we like to talk about pop culture, especially movies, video games, TV shows, music, you name it. Sometimes we'll do some controversial topics like we did the Dark Side of Nickelodeon in the last episode. So here on this Good Friday edition, I have Do Not Dead Name Timberwolf. It's Thriller Wolf, aka Greg. How you doing?
Good.
And then Pat, I don't think we're in Kansas anymore. Wait, are you still in Kansas?
Yep.
All right, so there's Pat. This time we're going to be talking and giving our honest thoughts on Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. So starting off the bats, what did you guys think of it?
I loved it.
And I'll be honest, it was okay for what it was.
That's kind of how I felt about it too, Greg. I wanted to love it. I was excited to see it. I know Pat saw it the day it came out. I saw it the day it came out. I don't know when you saw it.
It was last Saturday.
Okay, so maybe a day or two after it came out. I think all three of us were excited to go see Frozen Empire, right?
Yes.
Now, why were we excited to go see Frozen Empire? Was it because Afterlife was actually really good?
Yeah, I think so.
I think all of us, there's things that we really liked about this movie, and then I think there's things I'm not so keen on. Now, do I think I will watch Frozen Empire again? Oh, yeah. Is it as good as the original 2? Definitely not. Agreed?
Yep.
But is it better than 2016?
Hell
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, but that's not saying much.
Firstly, I loved how they brought William Atherton back as Walter Peck, and he's like now the mayor of New York City.
Oh, yeah, I thought that was hilarious. They even threw in a line at the very end. It was somebody from the crowd that's going, "It's Mayor Dickless."
I remember that.
I just like how, once again, they combined the new cast, which features Ant-Man, Paul Rudd, with old cast like Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd.
Oh, so you liked having Dan Aykroyd in it. You liked having Bill Murray. Who else did you like having in it?
Winston.
Yeah. And for those that are going to say that, oh, Winston just served to be the black guy. No, Winston was the everyman. You had Ray being the heart. You had Egon was the brains. Venkman was the mouth. And then Winston was basically the everyman. Compared to being three scientists, he was the normal guy. So that's what made Winston popular.
Yeah, unfortunately, though, Harold Ramis sadly passed away before he even had a chance to do Afterlife in this movie in particular.
Yeah, but at least Afterlife was an amazing tribute at the end for him. Like, it was a great send-off to Egon and Harold Ramis in general.
And as I do recall that Ernie Hudson pointed out, saying that when we got these weirdos saying that the first Ghostbuster was racist.
And of course, Ernie Hudson said, "No, it was not racist. What the hell are you guys talking about?"
Exactly.
Because everybody has to find something offensive nowadays.
Because there's people that are butthurt about 2016 not getting the reception that it got, especially Leslie Jones. So they want to point the finger at, oh, it's all those misogynist fans, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I did like Walter Peck back as the mayor. I did like that this movie had some good use of old nods to the original movie, like the library at the beginning, even the librarian. What'd you guys think of the villain?
And also describe it as tall, dark, and horny.
Yeah.
Would you agree that the villain in this one basically resembled something like the old cartoon?
Yeah. The only character that was missing from this movie was Rick Moranis.
Oh, and Sigourney Weaver's Dana Barrett would have been loved to have her back. I can understand Rick Moranis not coming back because the dude has stayed retired to take care of his kids ever since his wife, I believe, passed away from illness.
Yep.
He has a legit reason why he's not coming back in any movies anytime soon. Okay, so the villain itself was fine. I also did like that they included elements from the real Ghostbusters cartoon. So then, in terms of the gadgets, like I like in the beginning, you got them using drones to have a ghost trap in. Like I like some of the new stuff that they introduced. And what do you think of the firebending guy?
Cool.
Kind of reminded me a lot of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Probably reminded a lot of people, which is why I called him the firebender instead of the fire master as he's supposed to be called in the movie.
Kind of like how Winston had his own business and all that.
And I actually liked how the original actors were given a bigger role in this one compared to how they were in Afterlife.
Well, the part where Ray was trying to communicate with the watch because an old lady thought that her husband was still around and all that. And well, his assistant smashed it with a hammer because nothing was happening.
Smashing gets the views.
Yep.
Yeah, it had some funny moments. There was that line from Phoebe when she said, "If you weren't a Spangler, you'd be answering the phone." When she said that to her mom. Again, I didn't love Frozen Empire as much as I wanted to love it. How would you feel overall about Frozen Empire? Do you love it? Do you like it? Do you think it's okay?
I love it.
Okay, so why do you love it?
Kind of like how I feel about Cobra Kai and felt about Spider-Man No Way Home, bringing back Toby and Andrew and the Spider-Man villains from both films.
Even if you took out the original Ghostbusters, like if they had the same role that they had in the Afterlife, which was a very small role in Afterlife, would this film have still been a good film without them?
I feel like it would have been a totally different movie.
Here are the things that I really didn't find that good about Frozen Empire. And I'm going to start. I felt like there were way too many characters in this. There were people from Afterlife that they brought in, like they had no business being there, like Podcast and Lucky. And they really didn't add anything to the plot. You could have taken them out altogether and you wouldn't have missed anything.
It was just nice to see him again.
Oh, okay. But, and it also just didn't make sense how they just appeared. Like, oh yeah, we're all from Oklahoma, and oh, we just happened to be in New York at the same time, and in the exact same place, like Kevin McAllister and the Wet Bandits in Home Alone 2. And yet somehow in 2024, we weren't keeping in touch with each other, and we're surprised to see each other. Come on, the fact that they were in just didn't really make sense. Like, they didn't follow the family to New York. They just happened to be interning in New York. Like, no, that was just a poor excuse for them to bring in.
Last I remembered, I think Podcast was like sort of helpful in defeating the villains.
Yes, you can have characters in a movie that helped you defeat the villain in the other film, and you don't need to bring them back for the next one. I think the Spengler family being there, yes, that made sense. But would you guys agree it should have been more about a team of Ghostbusters being mentored by Ray with Winston's money, and maybe Venkman in there giving his one-liner? Should it have been more about that than including all the other kids from the movie?
I think it would have been nice.
Okay, when we see a movie about Ghostbusters, what's the thing we want to see them do?
Ghost.
Yes. Was there really a lot of that in this movie?
Only at the end.
Not really. You agree, Pat? Not a lot of ghost busting in this movie.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that was a problem that I noticed.
You get that opening car chase, yeah, which had some really cool gadgets and whatever. You have that scene in the library, and then you have the climax, and that's it. Would you guys say that the climax itself, it came in way too late in the film? This is a 2-hour movie, and this came in like the last 20 minutes of the movie. Would you guys agree with that?
Yes.
Now, you contrast that to the original 1984, and the entire climax was the entire third act, which was 45 minutes. And then in the second movie, you had that villain. He had an even bigger presence throughout the movie before he officially appeared on screen. You don't really see anything with this villain until the last 20 or so minutes. And he had a cool backstory. He had cool things about him. And you don't see much of him, which I think was a shame.
It's not like he's the first and last villain to ever really have very limited screen time. I mean, there's been plenty of other movie villains that have had very minimal screen time.
Sure, the actual villain in the 84 movie had very little screen time. But the difference is the movie wasn't focused on a bunch of different things, taking your attention away from it. The movie was focused on who the hell is this villain? What the heck is going on with these ghosts? Why are the ghosts appearing? That's the difference.
I suppose.
And another thing I had, would you guys think that there just seemed to be too much family drama stuff in this movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they could have maybe trimmed it down a bit.
Okay, so you agree with there. Now, it worked in Afterlife when it was serving to set up the new characters into what it became. And the context behind it was fine. But in terms of the family drama in Frozen Empire, it took away from the overall story. So you had a lot of people that were thinking, oh yeah, it's going to be a more of a return to Ghostbusting traditionally. And we had to sit through family drama instead. Like, how do you think people would feel about that?
Bored.
Yes, Afterlife was slow. Yeah, you can say that Afterlife was boring, but it made sense. And it had a compelling mystery, which the original films had. And it built up perfectly to the climax when we eventually saw the original team appear with the villain. Right?
Right.
It had a perfect build up to it. So no, we don't watch Ghostbusters for teenage drama. We want to see them busting ghosts. So I felt like this was kind of a bait and switch. You had posters having the original Ghostbusters with the new team, with their proton packs. You had trailers talking about the Frozen Empire and the new team and the old team coming together. And you're making it think, oh, it's going to be a team up between them. That happens all in the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Well, that's the problem with Sony.
Okay. Now, what did you think about the stuff between Phoebe and Melody?
Didn't bother me.
Well, as I recall, people were pointing out saying that they were trying to hint something right there.
Yeah, there's going to be some that'll say that there's queer vibes between Phoebe and Melody, especially because why else would Phoebe want to become a ghost for 2 minutes to get closer to Melody and know how it feels?
Honestly, I didn't sense that at all.
Some people sensed it. Me, I didn't care, but there's definitely going to be those that are going to be thinking, oh, why are they doing this? Why are they including stuff like this? This isn't what we want in Ghostbusters.
I did not even notice it at all. I did not any implication of them being a queer couple.
Not that they were going to be a queer couple. It was more that Phoebe had some kind of attachment to Melody, some kind of attraction to Melody that was not platonic. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think, they managed to do something totally different that no other Ghostbusters film ever did, and that was humanize ghosts.
And I actually like that about it. I'm glad you brought that up. That was a new concept that I thought, yeah, that's something that's never been done before. Let's see where they go with it. And where they went with it just didn't quite fit in, or where they went with it just kind of bloated up the movie. Because a third of this movie was focused on the stuff between Phoebe and Melody. Would you guys agree that Frozen Empire felt like 2 to 3 movies being meshed into one?
Probably.
Okay. Because if they wanted it to be like Afterlife, then they didn't need to go back to New York and interact more with the original Ghostbusters. Like, if you want to be an Afterlife movie, be an Afterlife movie. Go ahead in that direction, and people would have been fine with it. But if they wanted it to be more of a return to classic Ghostbusters, then they needed to cut back on the family drama stuff and even cut out a few of the kid characters from Afterlife. They didn't need to be there. So I guess that's what we're talking about when it comes to Frozen Empire. Gentlemen, do you have any other thoughts about Frozen Empire that you want to bring up?
I will say that I don't know if there's going to be another Ghostbusters movie. I mean, I'm hoping if they do wind up doing another one, it'll be the last time, but I doubt it. I mean, this is Hollywood we're talking.
True. Greg?
Well, if they could just do just one more and close up the franchise, I'll be satisfied.
overall, I think what everybody has been wanting for the past 30 or so years was the third Ghostbusters movie to be a movie where they basically train a new team and then send them off on their new direction. So you kind of get elements of that with Afterlife and Frozen Empire, but I get that you're not going to please everyone with it. But I mean, again, we can still agree it's at least better than Ghostbusters 2016. But that's
Indeed.
not saying much.
Oh, totally.
All right, so that's all we're going to talk about in this edition. If we ever decide we want to talk about the other Ghostbusters movies, I'm sure we will do that. But with that said, the diner is now closed. If you enjoyed the conversation, if you want more rants, stuff about pop culture, then feel free to subscribe and stay tuned for another edition of Burgers and Fries at the Diner. I'm Desert Travis 22.